All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving back into the Internet of Things. You know how this works, right? We do the research, all the reading, and we boil it down to the most interesting parts. So today, we're going to be talking about how to actually build a serverless IoT backend. And we're going to be looking specifically at AWS IoT Rule Engine. Oh, and full disclosure, this is based on some articles and videos over at ThingRex.com, so shout out to them. Now, this is actually our third episode on IoT, so we're going to assume you guys already know the basics.
Yeah, we're going to skip all the introductory stuff, but this time we're going deep on the how. Like, how do you actually put together a serverless backend? And how do you make it work for your business, especially if you're not a hardcore techie?
Right, exactly. So no need to be a coding wizard here. We're going to focus on the why, the what, and the impact on your bottom line.
Hmm.
But first, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break down this whole serverless thing. What does that even mean in the context of IoT?
Well, imagine you have this virtual IT team, right? And they take care of all that behind-the-scenes stuff, all the servers, scaling, maintenance. You don't have to lift a finger. You just focus on your business, your applications, your data.
So it's like outsourcing your IT infrastructure. You don't need to buy servers, hire admins, worry about capacity.
Exactly. You're tapping into AWS's massive infrastructure,
Yeah.
but only paying for what you actually use. Kind of like a utility bill, you know? Pay for the electricity you consume, no need to build your own power plant.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. So where does the AWS IoT Rule Engine come into all of this?
That's where things get really interesting. Think of it like a super smart traffic controller for all the data streaming in from your devices.
We're talking about data from sensors, smart devices, all that good stuff.
Exactly. The rule engine takes all that incoming data, and based on the rules you set up, it decides what to do with it.
So it's like a set of if this, then that statements, right?
You got it. If a sensor detects something specific, the rule engine can trigger a certain action. And these actions can be incredibly diverse, sending notifications, storing data, even triggering processes in other systems, both inside and outside of AWS.
So it's not just about reacting to data, it's about creating these intelligent workflows.
Absolutely. It's like building a brain for your IoT system. Now let's peek under the hood for a second, just to get a basic understanding of how these rules are structured.
But keep it simple for us non-technical folks, please.
Sure, no problem. At its core, every rule has three main parts. First, you've got the SQL query. Now, don't worry, you don't need to be a programmer to understand this. It's basically like a filter that helps you pinpoint the specific data you're interested in from the incoming stream.
Okay, so like if I only want data from a certain type of sensor or from a specific location.
Exactly. Then you've got the destination. This is where you decide where you want that filtered data to go. It could be another AWS service, like a database, an analytics platform.
Makes sense. So the data can be processed smoothly without crashing everything. And what was that third part of a rule again?
Oh, right, the IAM role. This is all about security, giving the rule engine very specific permissions. It ensures the rule engine can only access the resources it absolutely needs to do its job.
So it's like a security guard making sure the rule engine doesn't wander off and do things it's not supposed to.
Exactly. It's all about keeping things secure and controlled.
Okay, this is starting to click now. We've got our devices sending data, the rule engine filtering and routing that data, and all of it happening securely. So we've got a lot to unpack here, but I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. And you know, as we're talking about this rule engine, it's amazing how flexible it is. But I'm curious about some real-world scenarios, like how are businesses actually using this?
Well, one example that ThingRex talked about is predictive maintenance in industrial settings.
Okay, so like factories and manufacturing plants, where any downtime can be really costly.
Exactly. Imagine sensors all over your equipment, monitoring things like temperature, vibration, all that. All that data streams into your serverless backend.
And the rule engine steps in, analyzes that data in real time, so it can spot patterns, potential problems, before they become huge issues.
Right, like let's say the vibration on a machine starts increasing, could be a sign of a bearing wearing out.
So instead of waiting for a breakdown, the rule engine triggers an alert to the maintenance team.
Exactly. They can schedule maintenance, avoid a costly unplanned shutdown.
Talk about efficiency, reduces downtime, keeps things running smoothly.
And it goes beyond just reacting to problems. You can even use the data to optimize performance.
Okay, how's that?
Think about a fleet of delivery vehicles, right? Sensors, tracking, fuel consumption, speed, all that.
And all that data gets fed into the serverless backend.
You got it. The rule engine can then analyze that data, spot patterns. Maybe some drivers are using more fuel or taking less efficient routes.
So you can use that information to train drivers, optimize route.
Exactly. Make smarter decisions, boost your bottom line.
It's like having a virtual consultant constantly analyzing your operations, looking for ways to improve.
That's a great way to put it. And ThingRex also talked about how retailers are using this.
Retail. Okay, I'm intrigued. How are they using serverless IoT in this rule engine?
Well, think about inventory management. You can use connected shelves, RFID tags, track inventory levels in real time.
No more manual counting.
Exactly. And as items are sold, the rule engine can automatically trigger replenishment orders.
So everything's always in stock. That streamlines the whole supply chain. And I bet healthcare has some amazing applications too.
Oh, absolutely. Remote patient monitoring is huge. Think about patients with chronic conditions, wearing sensors that track vital signs, heart rate, blood pressure, glucose levels.
All that data goes to the serverless backend, and the rule engine can monitor for any red flags.
Exactly. If a patient's blood pressure spikes or their glucose drops, the rule engine can send an alert to their doctor. It could even trigger an automated response.
That could literally save lives. It's amazing how this technology is changing healthcare.
And the possibilities are endless. Smart agriculture, environmental monitoring, even smart cities. Serverless IoT is transforming the way we live and work.
It feels like we're on the edge of something really big. But before we get too carried away, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Security. All this data from connected devices, how do we keep it safe?
Absolutely. That's a crucial question. ThingRex emphasized that too. Security is absolutely critical when it comes to IoT. Thankfully, AWS has a ton of security features you can use with the rule engine.
Okay, like what?
Well, we talked about IAM rules earlier, right?
Yeah.
Those control which services and resources the rule engine can access.
Like giving it specific permission so it doesn't do anything it's not supposed to.
Exactly. And you can encrypt data both in transit and at rest. You can use multi-factor authentication, intrusion detection systems to monitor for anything suspicious.
So for businesses looking into this, serverless IoT, what are the key things to keep in mind?
I'd say start with your goals. What problem are you trying to solve? What opportunities are you chasing?
Because the technology is just a tool.
Right.
It's about using it strategically.
Precisely. Once you know your goals, you can figure out how serverless IoT can help you achieve them.
And finding the right partners, the right resources, that's key too. And don't be afraid to try things out. The beauty of serverless is that it's pretty easy to get started and experiment.
That's a great point. You don't need to have everything figured out beforehand. Start small, learn as you go.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are the key things you want listeners to remember?
I think the main takeaway is that serverless IoT has so much potential, so many applications across industries. And the AWS IoT Rule Engine is a big part of that. It lets you build these smart workflows, automate actions based on the data from your devices.
And while security is super important, there are solutions out there to keep your data safe.
It's a really exciting time to be exploring all of this.
Couldn't agree more. We've covered so much ground, from those basic concepts to real-world examples, even talked about security. But now I'm really curious, what's next? What does the future hold for this whole serverless IoT thing?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Imagine rules that can actually learn and adapt, using machine learning to find those hidden patterns in your data.
So instead of just reacting to those preset limits, it can almost anticipate problems.
Exactly. Think about it. A system that can predict when machine's about to fail, just based on subtle changes in its performance.
Wow, that takes predictive maintenance to a whole new level. We're talking about minimal downtime, optimized resources, maybe even preventing those major breakdowns.
And that's just one example. Think about personalized healthcare, smart cities, self-driving cars.
It's incredible. The potential is huge. But with all this talk about machine learning and algorithms, it makes you think about the ethical side of things.
Oh, for sure, for sure. As these systems get smarter, more independent, we need to make sure they're developed responsibly. Fairness, transparency, accountability, all of that is crucial.
We don't want algorithms making those big decisions without any human input, right?
Exactly. That's why we need these open discussions, involve ethicists and social scientists in the development process.
It's about finding that balance between progress and responsibility. I think that's something really important to remember as we move into this new era of serverless IoT.
Absolutely. And another thing to keep an eye on is how different technologies are starting to blend together.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've been focusing on serverless IoT, but imagine combining it with things like edge computing, blockchain, even augmented reality.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What would that look like in practice?
Imagine a factory where workers have these AR glasses, and they can see real-time data from the machines right there in their field of view. And with edge computing, some of that data processing happens right there on the factory floor.
Wow, so everything's faster, more responsive.
Exactly. And you could even use blockchain to keep that data secure, create a tamper-proof record of everything.
It's like that line between the physical world and the digital world is blurring.
And that blurring opens up a whole universe of possibilities for innovation and creating value.
It's really exciting to think about. But before we get too lost in the future, let's bring it back to our listeners who are just getting started with serverless IoT.
What advice would you give them based on all that we've discussed?
Don't be scared of the technology. Just dive in, experiment, learn as you go. Start small, try things out. It's okay to make mistakes.
Great advice. And remember, there are so many resources out there to help you. ThingRex has those awesome articles and videos.
And as you start exploring this, keep 3 words in mind: agility, scalability, and innovation.
Those are the core of serverless IoT, and they're the key to unlocking so many possibilities for your business.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into serverless IoT and the AWS IoT Rule Engine. It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you, and we can't wait to join you again soon for another deep dive into the world of cutting-edge technology.
Until then, keep learning, keep innovating, keep pushing those boundaries. This is the ThingRex Audio Experience, signing off.